Football has produced some of the greatest rags to riches stories. Over the years, talented players from humble backgrounds have become rich and famous. Pele, Maradona, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. These stars started with little money, but became world famous through their football skills. The other great thing about football is that it has done this for people from all over the world. One of the most interesting stories of this kind is that of George Weah's incredible rise from the slums of Monrovia to football stardom, and then to Liberian politics. A young prolific striker who via the stadiums of prestigious teams like AS Monaco, PSG, AC Milan, Chelsea and Manchester City rose to reach the presidential palace in Liberia. But how did an unschooled boy from one of the most neglected parts of Liberia rise to the global stardom in football and then to becoming the president of Liberia? What challenges did he face and what drove him to succeed against all odds? My name is Landon Tunchama, and in this episode, I will take you through the journey of the celebrated African legend, George Weah. From the slums of Clara Town in Monrovia to becoming the first and only African player to win the Ballon d'Or and the FIFA Player of the Year award, and then to Liberia's president in 2018. Weah was born on 1st October 1966 in Capital Bypass, Monrovia, where his father, Mr. William Tarpe Weah, worked as mechanic with Liberian on Johansen Drive, and his mother, Madam Anna, supported the family with her business as a trader. The marriage between his parents did not last long, as shortly after his birth, his parents were separated. After the couple's separation, George Weah was sent to the slums of Clara Town in Monrovia, where he was raised by paternal grandmother, Emma Brown. At the time, she was responsible for raising 13 children, including Weah.
I'm glad I was raised by my grandmother. If I didn't, I don't know what I was going to become. She taught me a whole lot. She taught me how to pray. She taught me how to forgive. She taught me how to love. And she taught me how to be respectful, to go for what we want to do and never give up. I had a series of challenges. Living in a community where there was no hope. A lot of friends in the street, gambling, using drugs.
Life became more difficult for Weah. Clara Town was one of the most impoverished areas of Monrovia, marked by extreme poverty, lack of basic amenities, and limited opportunities for its residents. It was a tough environment where survival often depended on one's resilience and resourcefulness. Life in the slums was harsh, with limited access to education, clean water, and proper healthcare. It was a place of little to no hope. Like other young boys in the neighborhood, young Weah gambled and scavenged through garbage for bottles to sell just to make some money to meet his basic needs. But even amidst these difficulties, Weah found solace in football, which will eventually become his escape from the hardships surrounding him. As a child, Weah was drawn to the dusty streets where he and his friends played football barefoot with makeshift balls. Accounts from family members who saw him grow said he started playing football from the moment he started walking.
He started playing football from a smaller town, and whenever he get out in the morning, we go look for him with me playing football. We call him to come and eat. After eating, he will go and play football.
Football quickly became his passion, and despite the rough conditions, it was also a source of joy and hope. Like many young boys in his neighborhood, Weah dreamed of making it big in the world of football, seeing it as a way out of poverty that defined their lives. However, the odds were stacked against him. He had so many challenges to overcome. One of Weah's most immediate struggles was his lack of formal education. Raised by his grandmother who had to care for multiple children, he didn't have the opportunity to attend school regularly. The absence of a proper educational foundation meant that he was forced to rely heavily on his raw football talent to carve out the future for himself. But this is Liberia, and life is not easy. Liberia was a turbulent country divided by social and economic inequalities. Weah was from the Kru and Bassa ethnic group, as his father hailed from the Grand Kru County while his mother hailed from the Grand Bassa County. These ethnic groups are among the poorest in Liberia. The lack of opportunities for urban mobility weighed heavily on him and many of his peers. These situations led Weah to dropping out of school, and he focused on his passion, playing football. Through all these challenges, Weah's talent on the football field began to shine. Local coaches and mentors soon recognized his potential, and his ability to play with speed, power, and precision set him apart from other young players in Monrovia.
Initially, he was kind of a lazy player. But when the coaches realized that he had the talent, he had the ability to do what they wanted him to do, they spent time on him.
Football became a lifeline for Weah, offering him a chance to escape the cycle of poverty that trapped so many in his community. Even to pursue his passion, he faced numerous challenges. The lack of proper equipment, training facilities, and access to professional coaching during his early years all conspired to stop Weah. But Weah could not be stopped. His passion and determination helped him to persevere. His early experiences in Clara Town taught him resilience, humility, and a deep sense of responsibility, traits that would later define his character both on and off the football pitch. As his reputation grew, it became clear that football would be the vehicle to propel George Weah from the slums of Monrovia to the global stage. You see, there's something very unusual about George Weah's rise to stardom. For many football stars, the rise to stardom is understandable. Most are from footballing nations, and if they are not, their parents migrated there in search of a better life. For Weah, we cannot say the same. Liberia has qualified for African Cup of Nations only twice, in 1996 and in 2002. They have never qualified for FIFA World Cup. For a national team that has produced the only Ballon d'Or and FIFA Men's Player of the Year in Africa, the Liberian national team have no single trophy to its name. In fact, before 1996, Liberia had never qualified for any major league. This was the situation that preceded the rise of George Weah. No national role model, and the nation had better things to take care of than investing in the national football team. They were on the verge of the first civil war and had most of their population already slipped into extreme poverty. A wise use of resources was definitely not on football. Against all this, George Weah dared to dream, an unusual dream that saw him achieve feats that no African players ever attained. George's first football team was Young Survivors, a football team based in Clara Town where he grew up. Within just 3 years with the team, he helped Young Survivors gain 2 league promotions from 4th to the 2nd league tier in Liberia. He then signed for Liberian National League club, Bone Grange. And within just a season, he was signed by one of the biggest teams in the league, the mighty Ballon. However, Weah did not stay long with the team because of the dissatisfaction that he was not a regular starter. He joined their closest rival, the Invincible 11, where he won the Liberian National League, becoming the league's top scorer and the league's player of the season. Although Weah was a national star, the Liberian's league pay was too meager to cater for the average player. To help meet his needs, he took a job with the Liberian Telecommunication Corporation as a switchboard operator before moving to Cameroonian Premier League. In Cameroon, Weah's talent did not go unnoticed for long. It was Claude Leroy, the Cameroonian national team manager, who discovered Weah while he was playing for the Cameroonian club, Tonnerre Yaoundé. Claude Leroy recommended the newfound talent to his friend Arsene Wenger. Wenger then was managing AS Monaco. He saw the potential in Weah and brought him to Europe in 1988. This move marked the beginning of Weah's illustrious career in European football. At AS Monaco, Weah quickly adapted to the European style of play. His speed, strength, and technical skills made him a formidable forward. He helped Monaco win the French Cup in 1991, showcasing his ability to perform on big stages. In 149 appearances, Weah scored 66 goals for AS Monaco. At Monaco, Weah won his first African with the Player of the Year award. His performances caught the eye of bigger clubs, and soon Paris Saint-Germain came calling. Joining PSG in 1992, Weah's career reached new heights. He led PSG to win the Ligue 1 title in 1994 and was instrumental in their victories in the French Cup and the League Cup. His prowess in front of a goal and his ability to create opportunities for his teammates made him a fan favorite, but it was his performance in the UEFA Champions League that truly set him apart. Weah was the top scorer in the 1994-1995 Champions League season. The Monrovian boy was conquering the world. In 1995, Weah made a significant move to AC Milan, one of the most prestigious clubs in Europe. At Milan, he continued to excel, helping the team win the Serie A titles in 1996 and 1999. His time at Milan was marked by numerous memorable events, including his incredible solo goal against Verona in 1996, where he recovered the ball from a corner kick and ran from his penalty box, passing Verona's defenders to their penalty box before rifling the ball into the bottom of the Verona's goalpost to score. This goal remains one of the most iconic in the Serie A history and football entirely. Weah's success was not limited to club football. In 1995, he achieved the pinnacle of individual accolades by winning the FIFA World Player of the Year and the Ballon d'Or, becoming the first and only African player to do so till date. He was listed in the FIFA 100 World Hall of Fame of Soccer, AC Milan Hall of Fame, and many other prestigious awards. This award recognizes outstanding contribution to football and his status as one of the best players in the world. Later in 1996, George Weah was named the African Player of the Century.
That was my best moment because it was the ultimate. You know, a kid grew up from the ghetto, no hope, you know, went away, and when everybody thought that he would just run back to Liberia because things would not be okay, you know, to be on the world stage, I mean, that was my best moment. So I won all of the trophies. It was unimaginable.
After his time at Milan, Weah had brief stint with Chelsea and Manchester City in the English Premier League. At Chelsea, he won the FA Cup in 2000, adding another trophy to his collection. His time in England, though short, was marked by professionalism and his ability to adapt to different footballing cultures. After leaving the Premier League, George had a brief stay at Marseille before retiring from professional football. From Liberia to the global stage, George Weah conquered the football world. In other people's story, this will be the end. For George Weah, it was only the end of a chapter. A new chapter was about to begin. Shortly after George Weah signed to play for AS Monaco, Liberia went into a civil war in 1989. This was the first of two devastating wars in Liberia that killed over 250,000 people and displaced thousands more. In 1990, the rebel group led by Prince Johnson captured Samuel Doe, the country's president, and videotaped themselves dismembering him. This act further deteriorated the already bad condition in Liberia as different factions of the rebel group fought themselves for control of Monrovia. Amidst this chaos, Weah emerged as a beacon of hope. He leveraged his international fame to draw attention to the plight of his country, advocating for peace and humanitarian aid. In 1994, during the heat of the First Civil War, George Weah recruited children throughout the country to join Junior Professional, a football team founded in 1980 whose only requirement was that the players remain in school. In the same year, he became a UN Goodwill Ambassador, helping UNICEF publicize its liberation immunization campaign, and in 1997, he also helped raise awareness of HIV/AIDS and other UNICEF projects in Liberia. Weah had the media's attention, and he felt he used that to call for international community intervention in Liberia. So he granted interviews to sports writers and international newspapers saying it was time for the UN to intervene in Liberia. After this, the rebel group loyal to Charles Taylor and Starkey's beach mansion in Monrovia raped two of his cousins and took away his exotic Mercedes-Benz. They wanted to send a message, and that message was for him to stay in his lane, which was football, and avoid politics. Weah rebuilt the house and called it King's Lodge, after his nickname, King George, and used it as a lodge for the players of the Liberian national football team. Weah's contribution was not just limited to advocacy. He personally funded relief efforts, provided food, medical supplies, and shelter to those affected by the conflict. His efforts were particularly focused on the most vulnerable, including children and displaced families. He invested $2 million of his own money to keep the national team going during the Civil War. In 2000, he took up the role as team's coach, technical director, and star player. He led the team to the 2001 World Cup qualification round. Fans were over the moon and said he would be a perfect president. Weah denied any interest in running for the presidency. As can be imagined, this didn't go down well with Charles Taylor, who was then the president of Liberia. After the unsuccessful run at the World Cup qualification, George Weah fled to Liberia fearing imprisonment or worse from Charles Taylor. He was in Liberia, and in fact, he conferred on himself the title of Feminist-in-Chief when he became president of Liberia. Weah's humanitarian efforts are enormous. He established George Weah's Foundation, which focused on education, health, and community development.
Ambassador Weah, we love him, we appreciate him, and we pray that God must always lift his hand up.
But here's the twist. George Weah became a household name because of his exploit on the football pitch and his humanitarian work. Although he made a great impact on average Liberian's life, he felt the best way to create lasting positive change was if he became the president of Liberia. Following the end of the Second Civil War, Weah announced his intention to run for the president of Liberia in 2005. His humble beginnings, fame and absence of ties to former corrupt regimes made him a favorite when he launched his campaign in 2005. But as pointed out earlier, Liberia had just come out of two devastating civil wars which lasted for more than 12 years. Hundreds of thousands of people were still refugees and the unemployment rate was 85%. His opponent quoted these dire statistics in Liberia. His lack of formal education and inexperience in politics showed that he was incapable of leading Liberia. To her credit, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, his Harvard-educated opponent, had a better experience. She served as the Minister of Finance in the 1970s during the William Tolbert administration. She also had positions in Citibank, World Bank, and the United Nations. Weah's eligibility was also questioned as it was reported that he held French citizenship from his footballing career with PSG. These complaints were overruled in court and he was allowed to run for the presidency. In his campaign, Weah positioned himself as a man of the people who knew the day-to-day struggle of the average Liberian because he suffered the same fate. He was even quoted as saying, "I don't need political experience to give you light, water, or to see that the roads are bad. I know where you come from." Well, in October 2005, Liberia took to the polls and the results showed that George Weah had 28% of the vote, although he claimed to have had over 60%. A runoff followed in November and George lost to Ellen, who had 20% in the first round. The election had over 15,000 UN peacekeepers. Although Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had 59% in the vote in the runoff election, George claimed the election was rigged in her favor. His supporters clashed with the UN peacekeepers and Liberian police despite calls for peace from George Weah. Further investigations were carried out, international observers called the election free and fair, and African leaders intervened, leading George to drop his complaint. On the 23rd November 2005, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf became the first female to be sworn in as President of Liberia and as first female president in the whole of Africa. Despite his defeat, George Weah continued his philanthropic work in Liberia and his support for the Liberian national team. After the 2005 general election, Weah remained active in Liberian politics. He unsuccessfully ran with Winston Tubman as the vice presidential candidate in the 2011 election and lost again to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, receiving only 9.3% of the vote. His breakthrough began when he contested for the senator of the western province of Mosterado and won, defeating Robert Sirleaf, the son of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Following his victory, Weah only occasionally attended sessions of the Senate, did not sponsor a single bill. In April 2016, Weah announced he would be running for president in 2007. His announcement was met with a resounding positive response from his supporters, most of which are the Liberian youth. George finally ran for the presidency and defeated Joseph Boakai, the Unity Party candidate who was also Liberian vice president at the time. Some people think that Ellen indirectly endorsed Weah because she did not endorse her vice president. On 22nd January 2018, Weah was sworn in as the president of Liberia, making him the youngest serving president in Africa. In his inaugural speech, Weah promised to fight corruption, open Liberia for foreign investment, combat illiteracy, and improve the living conditions of Liberia. However, Weah's early years in office did not show any positive impact on the economy. The inflation rate rose to 28%, and by the second year, 30%. Unemployment grew from 3% in 2017 to 4.1% in 2019. This economic downturn, coupled with delays in salary, triggered a protest called Save the State in Monrovia and Washington, D.C. To his credit, Weah made significant improvement in education and healthcare. He constructed and renovated schools to ensure children had a good learning environment. He invested in healthcare infrastructure and medical equipment, including clinics and hospitals. He also built health insurance programs and Liberia's first dialysis center. He scouted foreign investment from France, China, and other African countries. After 4 years, can it be said that George Weah left Liberia better than he met it as president? Whatever your opinion, the Liberian said no to that question. In 2023, George Weah could not secure a second term. The Liberian people gave George Weah a red card. In 6 years, Liberia's most famous citizen became unpopular enough to lose the presidential vote to a man he defeated in 2017. His government was widely seen as deeply corrupt and incompetent to solve Liberia's problem. He has said he will retire from politics and will not seek any public office. He came, he saw, and he dribbled his way to the top. The legend of George Weah in football world remains an inspiration for many kids all over Africa. Which George Weah did you know best? Which is your favorite? George the footballer or George the politician? Let me know in the comment box. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Until next time, bye bye.